Call the meeting to order. It's right at 6:30. We do have a quorum. I was at the city council meeting this past Tuesday, and they kicked it into gear and kept it under a half hour. It was pretty amazing. So let's try to let's try to do the same, if possible. Director comments, Thomas.
I have nothing today.
Nothing other than what I'll cover in the meeting.
Not really anything at this time.
No, I don't have anything either.
All right, making good progress so far. Unscheduled visitors, none. We'll move on to item number 4, consent agenda. And I do need to make an amendment here. I don't know if you'll notice, but the minutes were not in the packet. And that's my fault. Mark knocked them out in under a day after our last meeting weeks ago, and I did not attach it before I sent it to Christy. So, but do we have a motion to approve the financials?
Didn't we discuss to do it like city council does?
We did, but I had to amend it because I had to take C out.
Okay.
I was really looking forward to doing that for the first time, and then I realized that the minutes weren't in there. But we'll get them attached to next month.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
Okay. Second. All right, Mark seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Item number 5, this is for Brent, update on Shell Bottom Park, Texas Park Wildlife Grant.
Good evening. On the Texas Park Wildlife Grant, as I relayed at City Council, the preliminary drawings have been submitted back to the engineer for the first revision, and with some notations, and they are currently working on that. Also, as you're aware, EDC made the first payment on the drawings. It was about $10,000. Total of this step in the process is around $24,000, and we anticipate having nearly full reimbursement as part of the pre-planning grant portion of Texas Park and Wildlife's water access. So, is there any questions right now? Just moving slow, but it's working to our advantage.
So, okay, so we have been invoiced for the planning?
Yes, we've already paid it.
And it was how much?
About $10,000.
And that's reimbursable under the?
It is part of we qualified for what's called the planning grant, and that is 100% reimbursable.
Good.
Up to a certain amount. We fall underneath that amount.
Okay.
One thing it doesn't cover is permitting, but part of our engineer plan is some permitting that's in there, so that won't be covered. And
I meant to mention it in the opening comments, but I did update the sources and uses statement in our financial snapshot, and you can see the Shell Bottom improvement, $10,000. I had it come out in October. It was actually September, right? It was last month. But you can see where some of that is reimbursable. Brent and I kind of shifted some stuff around again, so the Shell Bottom part keeps, getting delayed more and more. And realistically, I guess that construction, those two $50,000 payments are probably going to be further. Or would you say that's pretty accurate at January and February?
It is possible to be January and February,
Okay.
but we're kind of, we would have to get the plans completed, have them sealed so they can't be changed, and then we'd go to bid. And so running pretty fast, hard and fast at that point. By the time they're sealed, you probably have a 60, 90-day window if everything works out right.
Okay.
I do like the bottom line a lot better, man.
The what?
I like the net, the available cash line. I like that one a lot better.
Exactly. It looks a lot better after the Danner Joer Road project. So, yeah, that looks really good. Any other questions on the Shell Bottom Park boat ramp? All right, moving on.
I did have one thing to add on the reimbursement.
Sure.
You have to complete that whole pre-planned process before you can submit for reimbursement. So you'll have cash out of pocket just for a little bit, and then I will submit it for reimbursement once it's all complete. And then-
So 2 months, you think, or?
Yeah, you'd probably, well, I can submit it in probably 2 months if we have the plant sealed. I just don't know how quickly Texas Parks and Wildlife turns around.
Got the check,
from that.
all right. We're a little less concerned because of our, improved cash flow. You know, that was, an issue before when we were looking at every $5,000 and $10,000, input, so. All right, we'll move on to item number 6, discussion and possible action for Hurricane Nicholas Recovery Grant for Town Center Business. This is also Brent.
EDC did step up for the recovery grants. There were 4 recipients of $5,000 each, so that was $20,000. There was a 5th recipient that was noted by name in the original resolution that was also approved by City Council. I'm awaiting some additional documentation from that person and that business to make sure that they make threshold for $5,000, which would be the full amount. And then we had a unnamed business in the same area that suffered damage, not to the same extreme. However, they had some problems with some electrical motors in their business, manufacturing business, and he submitted. I think I have 3 invoices for some motors that were rebuilt, and I stopped and talked to him last week, and there's a 4th one that is out right now, and he hasn't received that invoice, but I would ask for action from the EDC to approve a similar grant for the reimbursement of the recovery funds for Craven Boat Building. That was a business that was not named in the original resolution, and based on kind of the survey of the area after the storm, it was obvious these other places had damage. We thought that he was high enough, but as it turns out, he wasn't. He did take some water in the back of his building where these motors were.
He qualifies equally with the others if it had been done, earlier?
Well, he would have to be I just have to have the approval of EDC to offer him the same opportunity, because the original grant didn't say town center businesses located in the town center for flood recovery.
Mm-hmm.
It named them individually, and he was not named.
Okay.
So, and he's been as far as cost, I don't anticipate it being more than maybe $2,000. It's very nominal.
Well, we shouldn't discriminate, so it's, Do we need to make a motion to, I'll make a motion to include him in the same deal as everybody else.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. All right, that's great. I'm glad we could do that and help the businesses. Okay, item number 7 is discussion on possible action related to public parking in the town center area. So, I apologize that this proposal did not get out sooner. I received this probably just over 2 hours ago. So, not to rush through it, but we can discuss it in length if needed. But as y'all know, we have parking constraints that are slowly getting worse and worse as development and the town center gets more and more busy and successful, which is a good problem to have, but we need to find somewhere for everyone to park. So there was a parking study done by Walker. If y'all aren't familiar with Walker, they're one of the largest parking consultants in the country. They have done every project, small, large, every state, city, and some international work. And they did a parking study. This is before I was there, but Ronnie probably remembers, back in 2014. So this was, before Okies was even there. There's not a whole lot up front. So you can imagine how much has changed in 7 years with, Okies and Schaefer's Rock and Rolling, Soul Freak, just a much busier town center. But we have added the entire parking lot, but as you've all noticed, it's completely full on the evenings, almost Thursday through Sunday. So I think it's the best next step is to have Walker revise the original parking study, with the addition of a couple of other requests that I, threw in there. And I've met with him a couple of times now, and the last time was, earlier today. I know y'all haven't had a chance to look through this, but if we wanna go through it here, item by item, we can.
Well, I just skimmed through it right now, and
Sure.
I mean, there's a lot about documentation of existing stuff, and a bit there's a fair bit of that, and then I find it a little bit light on recommendation and what we actually should be doing. Maybe we need to see if we can sway that, you know, towards more recommendation and not be so worried about the past and the existing.
So if you're looking at it item by item, you're right, a lot of it is dedicated to existing, and not so much what's in the future, but some of these items, like item number 7 is the main one, that's the one I highlighted here, and even 5 and some others go into detail about that. So, item number 5, not only does the current,
Yeah, but where we're gonna spend a lot of time is on number 11, and then there's only one of each of those.
so this is to update existing with the addition of items 5 and mainly number 7, which I think is really important because, council and others have talked about improving those parking lots, but I think we need to figure out exactly how many spots can be gained, from that, what's the cost, so we can.
Yeah, how do we optimize what we have, basically?
How do we optimize what we have, and look at what our situation is now compared to what it was in 2014, and what are the requirements going to be, with known, additions of businesses. That includes the brewery is obviously the big one. Even Aspen's is aren't they adding a second floor? I mean, I anticipate more people that, you know, going there. What is Frank gonna end up doing with his 2 buildings? Is that going to turn into a couple of spots? Soul Freak.
Well, whether we like it or not, we're gonna be in the parking business for a while.
We are. And I think what this is absolutely needed to quantify the situation that we are now after 7 years and all of the development that's been done since, and compare it to what we think it's going to be with known increased business, particularly the brewery.
I mean, from my point of view, I would say the scope is all right. Price is probably fair. Where I would like to add something is on 11 to have the kickoff is okay, but you know, to sum it up, we need some more there. You know?
So yeah, so this scope only includes what's listed on here. There is the anticipation of a phased proposal of recommendations, and then if we want, we can go to a third proposal, which will include the absolute end game with the entire town center built out and even Clear Lake Shores built out. We can format however we want, ask them to do it however we want. But what is the ultimate solution to where it'll resolve our problems after everything is completely done? And then we know the answer.
The ultimate solution is people carpool a little bit more, huh?
Walk.
From South Shore, I don't think.
Johnny, what about, should we, before starting this, have some conversations with Skippers and, what's her name, I'm blanking.
The harbor property?
Yes.
So that is listed on here. So if you look at item number 7, I specifically asked them to identify new surface lot locations. So they will go in and look at the privately owned properties, like the ones you just mentioned, and let us know how many spots we can anticipate of putting there as a temporary fix. That was one of the key things that I wanted to add in. So meaning, if we got in a massive bind and we had to speak to these private landowners, ask them, you know, what are the chances of using the property? How many spots can we get if we throw down some gravel and some parking stops to get us out of a bind?
I think that's, I mean, if we go and ask them, you know, there's gonna be, I think it's gonna be easier to have a third party do it. I think they're gonna be, I honestly think they're gonna be more receptive, yeah.
And that's absolutely something that we have them do in the next proposal, but I would like to know, and I think we'd all like to know, how many spots is that worth? So
Right.
then, when they come back with
I
a
think
number, and we're like, that is outrageous, or that is extremely reasonable, I think this is something that maybe we should partner with for the next, 12 months to, you know,
Mhm.
'cause we don't wanna just run out, we don't necessarily know what's gonna happen when, you know, the breweries here and some of these other places have a little more
You know,
development.
Well, we know it's gonna be busy.
Parking is our Achilles heel, so I make a motion to approve the $10,800 for Walker to do the parking study.
But, can we
There's
discuss?
some discussion, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll open up to more discussion.
And at the first meeting, we can express what we're expressing now, 'cause we're gonna meet with them before they start out. We can ask them a lot of questions, say, we really want you to check on this and do that.
Yeah, but I agree, but instead of then making, having the motion to be at exactly the bid price, should we just say not to exceed, another price, and then work out a deal with them? And then when that deal is done, as long as it doesn't exceed, we can just do it?
The one we did in 2014 was $10,000, so they've only gone up $800, and, you know, they're a big company, they probably don't wanna do projects, they're probably busy, I mean, they do airport parking in Dubai and stuff like that, I mean, so we're fortunate to find a company this close to home that'll even do it, in my opinion.
What I really like about, Walker, after meeting with them a couple times, one, they were the ones that did it before, there's obviously huge value in that, but, Casey is who I met with, and, he's pretty high up in the company, over this whole region, and he happens to live on the north side of Clear Lake, and he's very...
Oh, wow, that's good.
Yeah, he's, loves the area, he knows it, if we need to ask him questions, hey, come by, drive by here, we're gonna have a working relationship with him. I see what you're saying, we absolutely wanna get the best value you can, but I don't necessarily
The thing
wanna
is,
nickel and
we wanna
dime.
pack in as much as we can, but we also don't wanna make it too tight, because, yeah, people leaving bars, and, yeah, you don't want to have it too tight, you know?
Sure.
Yeah,
And, you know, they may, like I said, on item number 7 here, figuring out how much more efficient we can make the 2 existing gravel lots. It may not be much, it could be 6 spots, it could be 22, you know. In the west lot, the smaller one, I don't see any more getting in there, but, yeah, I think we should have a do not exceed, and like, Ronnie just said, you know, there's gonna be a kickoff meeting. This is not set in stone, or this is what they're doing. We can change this scope.
and also there needs to be some, I don't know, it doesn't have to be written, but some sort of understanding with the business owners that the employees don't come in one car each and park next to the door, you know?
And, you know, they can give all the advice that we're willing to
Yeah,
ask.
exactly, yeah.
And I think that's...
But coming from us, it will mean one thing, coming from somebody else, it...
Sure.
Well, once we get the study, then we can show it to maybe the business owners, and I think most of them are tuned into that, if they're...
I think they will be, I mean, as a follow-up after 11, after that, after the study, that's when I think they should also be invited, yeah.
Oh, to the final meeting?
No, after that, yeah.
Oh.
And like I said, I think, there's a lot of discussion amongst council, Plaza 10, us, what's the end game, what do we need to do, I think this, I think that, this quantifies it. This is the situation we're in, here it is, here's the leading consultants in the country.
Right.
And one thing, I do wanna mention that they, changed after some, discussion with, Hoffman, the architect. He recommended that, a little bit different way of looking at occupancy based off of table seating, because we have so much patio and outdoor seating, because if you just look at square footage, it's not necessarily accurate. So I thought that was a really good recommendation, so that's exactly what they're gonna do. So we'll take a little bit of information from business owners, but you know, I think everyone's gonna be on board, and we can get that information pretty easily.
But what we don't wanna do individually is go around and start asking the business owners to let us know what their parking situation is, and, you know,
Right.
we don't wanna...
It needs to be done methodically.
It needs to be done confidentially by these people.
But,
Want to vote?
yeah, any more discussion? We'll take a vote, all in favor? Say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously. Moving on. Item number 8, discussion on possible action related to town center palm trees. And then before you start, sorry, Bonds, I left this open, to all palm tree discussion because I think there is, quite a bit that we need to lay on the table and talk about, as far as palm trees, because Plaza 10 and council were just, approved removal of the palm trees, the jewels, since
Okay.
they're all dead.
Has that been approved?
Are they old?
They're, Brent, are they all dead? They're all dying? It's like 13 are dead or something and more, I don't know.
17?
But that's not the Medjool, that's not just the Medjool pond, so, I mean, at the entrance, how many do we have? Okay.
Said,
You have two that are right next to Schaefer's. There's 15, and you have two in front of. You have two in front of the west parking lot, and that's your 17, and we've already taken one down up here.
Yeah, that one of them fell, right?
Yeah, just turned to mush in the middle.
That makes us. That's how we come to the 17, okay.
Yes, sir.
but you said, council and Plaza 10 already approved that, is that what you said?
Plaza 10,
To bring in the,
To take down, yeah, that's what that,
Discussion on whether we were gonna take and grind the roots or not, and Brent and I talked about that. I personally don't see why we don't do it, it's $150 a stump. My opinion is, Brent had mentioned that we already treated those trees. We paid a lady to come out and treat those trees for a fungus, but if those trees still have some beetles or fungus in them, my point is that dirt's probably contaminated. You don't wanna plant any real trees in there anytime soon. I say we clean it up. If we're gonna leave it till after the winter or whenever we're gonna put trees back, I think we should clean it up. So I expressed that after the meeting, after I thought about it some more. I think $150 a stump is pretty damn cheap.
I agree,
You'd be hard pressed to find somebody to do it cheaper.
I agree, I think it just should all be done. I think the longer that those stumps, regardless of what's been treated, are out of there, if we decide to go back in with trees, the longer they're not in the soil, the better. And we don't know if they're gonna go in the same spot, right? They may be moving.
Yeah, they mentioned moving them over some, because even if you grind the stump, there's still gonna be something in the ground, and you're gonna have to dig that up eventually.
Right, so it's not like we're gonna save labor by them removing the tree and planting it at the same time. We're gonna pay for it now or pay for it later.
Yeah, they're gonna,
Yeah. So that's. Right, so that's where we stand. I wanna give a little bit of background. So, Plaza and the city, I think, the city gonna split, the cost to remove them. So far, that's what's been approved? Or is it just Plaza 10 that's paying for it?
Plaza 1006 approved removal of the trees, so that's the direction we're moving in right now, to get those down. They're considered probably a safety hazard at this point.
Yeah.
They're gonna turn to mush and snap in two. I've already talked to our landscaper, and he's out of the country, but working with his staff here and getting us plugged into the schedule as soon as possible to come over and get rid of those. One thing he did say, there was also some discussion about whether or not to remove the root balls, which sometimes you can leave, because I didn't know if he was going to come all the way down to the bottom or leave them 2 or 3 feet high so you can move the root ball and take it out. He said that since they're dying from the inside out, that leaving them 2 or 3 foot high and trying to snap or pull the root out isn't going to work because it's all mush. And he suggested that the best solution would be to grind them when the time is to get rid of them, to grind them. You're not going to get all of it out of there, but you're going to get the vast majority of it. And I asked about, well, removing the root balls. He said the problem with removing root balls right now, the recyclers that take tree debris, hardwood debris, palm debris, right now are charging a premium for palms because it gums up their equipment. You may have a hard outer shell, but the inside of it's all slimy, and it dulls their blades. It gums the the rotary, grinders up, and so they're grinding at a 90-10 ratio, 90% hardwood, 10% palm. And the cost right now, or yesterday, because I talked to him after he had priced it out, per root ball right now, just the disposal fee, not getting it out of the ground, is $200. So you'd have, $3,000 just in disposal and labor to get them out of the ground. So his suggestion was come back and grind them. As if we can adjust the geometry on how, he did not suggest putting medules back in there because they are the wrong species. So in talking with him, he suggested the Texas sable. It's a hardier tree, it's made for this environment, and his suggested size would be somewhere between 11 and 14 feet with the trunk height, and that gives you some time to allow them to grow. They max out, not as high as a medjool, provide a nice canopy, but at 11 to 14 feet, then that gets them out of the way of traffic. So you may have a semi truck that might have trouble looking through them, but all of your pickup trucks, your golf carts, your cars, their vision's not obscured, so you're not starting so small.
We might consider, when we do make a tree decision, if we want to look at something different than the medules, maybe buy a couple of them and go ahead and put them in somewhere like across the street from Schaefer's there, where there's a place where they could be, we could see how they look and how much it costs to put them in and all that type of stuff, and try something different there and see what that looked like. And if we want to, where these next trees are coming up, we might consider doing something like that with these artificial trees.
Well, we should look at these artificials because it's, we will also save a bunch of money with Centerpoint, not having to move those power lines.
Well, they're not gonna, we're not gonna have to do that. That'd be too expensive, right?
Right, so,
I'll also just weigh in real quick on the species of the trees. You know, we've already paid for a pretty substantial study by Susan Roth, and she provided that 5-year plan. Joel Shulsky kind of championed that, and this is in fitting. The Texas sable is one that she also suggested independently, as well as about 4 other different species that provide a different look, and this was primarily to address the perimeter of the residential section of Clear Lake Shores. So you have one that's small, medium, and a little taller, and so it adds some diversity, and then mixing those species hopefully keeps a species-specific either parasite or fungus from taking out every tree you have, so it's limited to those specific trees if they came over on the same boat or came across on the same truck or whatever.
The medules lasted, I guess, 7 years. So we got them in 14, I think. And if we hadn't had the freeze, and if we hadn't have overwatered them, they would probably still be alive, I would think. So, the medules, what we want is, when you go through Leak City, that's what you remember about that. It's that canopy of oak trees. It'd be nice if we could have a canopy of oak trees there, but that's not going to happen. We got the high lines and all that. But so what we're looking for is more the wow factor, I think, than anything. And if the Texas sable will do that and be healthy and healthy, fine. Otherwise, it's just like buying Christmas decorations. We want our decorations to be these beautiful oak trees up front. It's our front window. It's what represents us to the outside world. We've got all these businesses here that can, that will benefit by the way the entrance looks. So I'm just interested in making sure what we put in there don't look like scrawny little things, or and they have a big head and everything.
So coming back full circle, I think what's most likely going to happen is the EDC is going to be buying some sort of a tree solution in the next 9 months.
Yep.
I think we can all agree, right?
We can agree on that, but I'd like to see, if we're going to go for something artificial, it has to be so real. You have to go really up close and touch it to see that it is not real. Otherwise, no.
Sure, and we can discuss that, now. Like I said, I just wanted to kind of get on the same page that we are probably, now that, cash flow is good, that we are probably going to be buying trees of some sort and fixing, it was an EDC project originally, that planted them. But a couple of things I would like to say is, if we get the right palm tree, it won't grow into the power lines. Like, we can get the right species and that it won't happen. So we can because we anticipated on moving those lines or chopping them down. So we can almost, look at it like we're saving a little bit can go toward the trees because we're no longer having to mess with power lines anymore.
Now you're thinking like the government, huh?
Yeah, exactly. But it's true. I mean, now that, we spent a decent amount of time talking to Centerpoint and thinking about options and stuff, and if we go back with the right tree, we don't have to, that's not something that we have to discuss anymore. I think there's value to that, is my point.
I just did a number, if we do 17 trees and the cost is $5,000 a piece, it's gonna be $85,000. I don't know what we can get the different trees for, but I mean, that kinda gives you a scope. It's gonna be close to $100,000, between $75,000 and $100,000 with live trees.
And we'd probably look at it as a separate project, but we did budget $70,000 in just general town center landscaping. I think we wouldn't come out of our budget. I think it'd be a separate project, but that's just something to keep in mind. But one option is, not to be long-winded, is these artificial trees, and I know Mike Pons and Brent, I think both of you'll.
Yeah, okay. Well, when I first heard that all these trees were dead, and they wouldn't be able to be replaced for a while because of the bacteria in the roots and whatnot, wanted to look into what possible options would be, and looked into artificial palm trees and found there's a few companies that do it. We have the website up for one of them that probably looks most promising, and they've used these trees on the project page. You can kind of scroll down, but they have used these in Margaritaville, all over the country. They've used them in the New York Plaza Hotel in the Philippines, water park in Texas. I mean, you can look at them, they look pretty good.
In New York, you expect them to be fake, right?
What's that?
In New York, you expect them to be fake.
Well, yeah. They're actually indoor at New York Plaza. But the point is, it's a possible option. What they did was they went down to Florida and they cut down a medjool and some coconut palms, brought the trunks back, made a mold in a high density foam injected, and then painted, and they got artificial leaves. And they can be from $4,000 to $7,000 a tree, and you won't have any more problems with freezing and things like that. They can withstand the winds and whatnot. And like Thomas said, you can have something that really looks good, and they look great from the website. You'd have to travel a couple hours to a water park if you want to put your hands on some. But it's
Sheridan.
Sheridan, 2 hours away. Sheridan Water Park.
Sheridan's by Eagle Lake, west of here.
Yeah.
South of Brookshire or Sealy, I guess.
Yeah. But the main thing is it's an option. They'd be permanent. You wouldn't be worrying about freezing. You wouldn't be worried about trimming, things like that.
Saving the water bill too.
Yeah, the water bill, right. You can.
How many palm trees keep growing out of here?
Yeah.
But it works.
Well, I mean, works. And anyway, size-wise, it can be anywhere from, I got a quote for 20 feet and 28 feet. 28-foot medjool is right there, and that's the largest one they make. And that would be somewhere around for 13 of it, it'd be $100,000. For a 20-foot tree, it would be half of that, about $50,000.
So the price is roughly the same as for live.
Well, I believe it's a little less. I mean,
I think
Yeah.
we would have at our entrance around our sign, maybe.
yeah. Well, you could have them curved and
There'd be
whatnot.
a sign out there, yeah,
Right.
palm trees around.
But once again, just did a little bit of research, not a whole lot, just looked like the best company. And it is an option if you want to consider it possibly, and so I thought I'd bring it up.
So what were the palm fronds made out of? Are they
They're-
same type of plastic
Yes,
material?
synthetic, and they're actually bolted to the tree itself, and they can withstand 70 to 90 mile an hour winds.
So,
So,
it's
you
kinda
know,
like but a plant in your house, you gotta clean them periodically, that they talk about.
No,
cleaning
no, the
process.
only maintenance required would be the trunk would, have to be treated once a year with, UV protection to keep it from fading. But other than that, you know, the leaves would get washed with the rain, just like, you know, anything else. Yeah, but suppose, I mean, you know, you can read their website, and they went to great lengths to make sure the palms, you know, look exactly like a real palm, the upper side and the lower side, the different hues and whatnot, and
We ought to find some that are 10 years old and where they got them placed, just
That's-
to see
that's
what
my
how they
concern,
last.
yeah.
well, that's just it. I'm not sure you're gonna find any 10 years old, you know.
If they're that new, you don't wanna be the first one with them, I'm afraid. That's my only concern, is that.
Well, I mean, I'm putting a little bit of, credence in that Margaritaville, like 6 or 7 different resorts decided to use them. So, I think they probably, hopefully they did their homework, some of it, but once again, it's an option. It's not necessarily saying that's what we should do, but,
Oh, yeah, I'm glad it was explored. We have a price, and we
Yeah.
know a little bit about them, just another data point, because it is gonna be a massive investment,
yeah.
so.
But how do we move this forward from here? I mean, as far as basically fake versus, the stables?
I think we have some time, because we're not gonna be able to plant new ones until the spring, I think is what everyone's recommending.
Yeah. I would say at this point, we wanna leave it open as an option, that's all we gotta
Sure.
do. You know, and I can get pricing on different sizes, you can get pricing by the foot, and also on the leaves, the crowns, how many leaves, what size, was it a 5 foot, a 6 foot, et cetera.
Just out of curiosity, what kind of warranty is on these?
Well, there's not a warranty,
Yeah.
no, there's not, and,
The other concern I had was if you go too tall, then you're gonna be in the same predicament we are right now with the modules, obscuring the banners that are on the top of the light poles, and then getting close to the power. Even if they're not gonna grow any taller, they're still close. And then the concern I have with installation is, and I think Mike was gonna contact the sales manager, the owner of the company, to find out if they had installers. Because I don't think this is something that we can do in-house. We don't have I think you would need a crane, and you need the right people to do it, and you're probably gonna have to, put a concrete, sono tube in. And
We need something like the fan, something turnkey, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, this isn't, I don't think this is a turnkey solution where you just,
no.
It-
I spoke to him about the
Yeah.
installation, he said each one has been different, and typically the casinos and the water parks and whatnot have contracted with local landscapers.
okay,
Because it involves digging a hole 36 inches deep with an auger, and then putting a sleeve with some poles that go out to support it, you know,
That sounds pretty
wind-wise.
simple.
Yeah, and then you fill it with concrete.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then you gotta get up on a lift of some sort to get up there and attach them. So then it's a bit of a job, the installation, but no, he doesn't have a crew per se. There was a crew that did the, job in Oklahoma at that Margaritaville, and they came from Dallas, like a 5-hour drive, and they spent 4 or 5 days there doing it, but he doesn't know exactly what they charged, because that was between the casino and the landscape company. But Houston's a big town, a lot of landscapers. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure we could find someone that had the equipment, rather than try and do it ourselves.
I think, I just think that there would be a little bit of pushback, obviously, because we live in somewhere where palm trees grow.
What's that?
I think, we live somewhere where palm trees grow naturally, so, I think it'd be a hard sell, on the community to put fake trees there. But it definitely has its benefits.
like I said, it's an option.
Sure, no, yeah, I think it's a
Not
good data
necessarily
point.
it's the right thing to do, or pushing it, or advocating it, just bringing it up as,
Even if not used at the entrance, you know, at least it could be in the back of our mind for any other projects.
yeah. Well,
Parks.
the initial thing I came up with was, what would it take to replace what we have in a short period of time and look just, you know, a 26-foot mature? And these could do that. I mean, you're talking $100,000, so it's not cheap, but it could be done, and in one fell swoop, you got the entrance to the island.
These modules were 10,000 apiece installed
Yeah, that's
with
what-
a warranty and all that kind of stuff.
right. So this was 100,000 for 13.
They came with a warranty, yeah, but 20 years. No, it wasn't 20 years.
Yeah, till the next freeze.
As long as you don't overwater them,
Force majeure.
So anyway, at this point, I would just suggest maybe keep it open as a possible, something
Sure,
to
yeah,
consider.
it's gonna be a
I mean,
very
there's
big,
nothing to vote on at this point, I don't think.
sure, yeah. No action taken. Any more discussion?
That's all I have. I mean, there's a price list. I gave a link to everybody on the website. You can go through it in detail at your own leisure, but it lists all the different sizes, prices, and whatnot. And I picked a low end and a high end.
Mm-hmm.
So, for 50,000 for 13 on the lower end, and 100,000 on the higher end, anywhere in between. And at some point, I guess, when they get serious about it all, somebody's gotta drive up to the water park at least and
Check
put
it
their
out.
hands on them. And I might be able to get a sample of the bark or something like that. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, see if we can put one right out here. Well, they make small ones too, so I mean, if it goes any further, I would look into getting some samples before
Sure.
doing the trip. But at this point, just wanted to bring it up and see if there's an interest, that's all.
Yeah, thanks
That's
for
all
doing
I got.
Thanks for doing that. Yeah, well, you know, no action obviously, so we'll just wait and explore all of our options and just kinda have the idea that we're gonna be purchasing some trees, like I said, in some form or fashion in the next 9 months. Any other discussion? All right, and we'll adjourn.